This code video takes a brief look at the item analysis reporting module. I've already logged into the reporting platform using my account credentials, and I'm looking at the dashboard. I see 3 different assessments in the dashboard view. To access item analysis, I'm going to click on the purple magnifying glass icon below any assessment. At first, I see a summary view. Because I'm logged in at a district level, I see results across the entire district. If I had logged in as a principal or under a teacher's account, my results would be curtailed accordingly based on my permissions for data access. The main view shows the distribution of response choices by answer choice letter. This is particularly useful for multiple choice style assessments. In some cases, I see bullet marks instead of percentages. Those items represent TEI, or technology enhanced items, that are not easily represented by answer choices A, B, C, and D, respectively. In terms of orientation, the colored bar here, or rectangle, represents the correct answer. The color coding depicts what percentage of students answered the item correctly. Green color coding means a high percentage of students answered it correctly, whereas orange or red represents a very low number. For the first item on this particular assessment, I can see the number 50% is in bold red. That means that more than 35% of students chose a specific incorrect answer choice. The code platform flags those for additional review, because some reteaching or review of the concept may be suggested in those cases. I can see another example of that here for item number 27, for which 48% of students chose answer choice A, where the correct answer, marked in the colored rectangle, was choice B. I also have access to additional tools from this area. For example, I can click on the downward pointing arrow to compare the answer choices across all of my schools if I'm a district level administrator. At a school level, I can compare this across classes, and finally, at a teacher level, I compare across individual students. This allows me to see if patterns are unique to a particular narrow population or more broad in scope. In this particular case, I can see that relatively few students across all of my schools answered this correctly, and choice A was the most popular answer almost across the board. Clicking the Q icon on the far left allows me to see the question, or the assessment item itself. So it appears that in this case, most of the students chose choice A, 7 cubic centimeters, because they incorrectly added the length plus the height and the width in order to get the volume, when they should multiply the length times the height times the width, yielding 8 cubic centimeters instead of 7. To see additional data in this report, I can select from the available checkboxes up here on top. These may vary depending on the nature of the assessment and the specific content categories that are available. These may vary based on the specific content alignment categories available for any given assessment. If I select standards, I also have the opportunity to see not only the code of the standards, but the full standards description. I can check that box or leave it unchecked if I want to see a more narrow report. For any given standard, I can also click on it to see the district's overall performance on that standard relative to the performance on that specific item or question. That allows me to get some context in terms of understanding whether that standard was particularly problematic for my population, whether it's at a district, school, or classroom level, or whether or not that item itself was particularly difficult. Drilling down from this aggregated or summary view, I can look at individual student item analysis as well. I click Student Reports, and from there I can choose my school and choose a specific class. Again, this is mostly applicable to district-level administrators that have access to data from multiple schools. I can see the student's overall score, but most importantly, I can click on any given student to get their individualized item analysis report, which I can further customize. I can use the options here to configure the report, or I can hide them altogether. For now, we'll start simply. I can see the question number, the correct answer, and the student's answer. The student's answer will be color-coded based on whether it was correct, incorrect, or partially correct. By default, I can also see the class average for each item. Constructed response items that don't have A, B, C, or D selected responses will be represented with a bullet mark for the correct answer. The student's answer will be represented by the point value they achieved. So for example, I can see here the student's answer was 1, meaning they earned 1 point, whereas the class average was a 0.7. In this case, the student's answer was a 0, meaning that they earned 0 points for that question. The class average was a 0.1. This means essentially that only 1 in 10 students in the class answered that item correctly. Opening up the options area, I can include additional data for my report. For example, correlations to standards. I can also choose to hide the correct answers, as well as hide the points possible for each item if I want. I can also choose to compare the students' scores and responses to either the school or district level, in addition to the class level or instead of the class level. In this case, I'll remove the class level and replace it with district. So now I've modified the report so I can see the student scores compared with the district averages. I no longer see the correct answer. If I want to remove the points possible, I can do that as well. And let's say I don't want to even show the student's actual response. So I'm going to change that and choose to conceal student answers. Because I've chosen standards here, I can see the student score on each standard measured by the assessment, as well as the district average for that standard on that assessment as well. The settings you establish in the options area will also be applied to each student in the class list, so you only have to do this once. I can print them out for each individual student, one at a time, or I can batch print for the class, the school, or even district-wide results. Batch printing will generate a PDF that can then be printed and distributed accordingly. This concludes a brief overview of the COAT Item Analysis reporting module. Thanks for joining.